Hi everyone, and welcome to David Stanley FPV. Today we are going to go through a complete build, programming, setup, everything on the LHI 250 quadcopter kit. Comes with the LHI 2306 2600 kV motors, very powerful motors. Also comes with the RATH 32 35 amp ESCs. Pretty nice. It comes with this pin map. I've had sets of these ESCs before, but they didn't come with this map, which is pretty nice. Also, it has the Omnibus AIO F3 flight controller, and just a standard Maytech PDB board. I'm not for sure about this ESC here. I know it's the 200 or 600 switchable. I've never used it. It kind of looks like a ESC. I'm not familiar with the company that makes it, but we'll check it out and see how that does. It comes with a little lighting kit here. Not sure if I'm gonna use this or not yet, but I think I will, just to try it out. They're a little different than the ones that usually come with these kits. I'm definitely not going to use these, and it does come with a standard FPV cam as well, and about 5 sets of multicolored props there. So first off, let's go ahead and do a little frame assembly. Okay, we're going to start assembling the frame. All you basically need for this, like I said, is a 2mm hex head. You're going to need 8 of these screws. You're going to need 8 of these. You're going to need 4 of these, and 4 of the little screws that comes with the motors, the motor mount screws. I'm going to start by putting 4 of the long ones here, and this right in the center. Just hold them together, flip it over. If you'll notice, I've got some shrink tape on my arms. I'll show you why here in just a little bit. Once you get all 4 on there, go ahead and put your main plate. Slide it right on there. We'll take these, and now take the 4 remaining bolts, long bolts there. Alright, now we take these little silver looking ones that come with the motors. We'll go in each one of the holes here. There we go. And take one of these. Just tighten it up snug. Don't over tighten it, because these are plastic, and those metal screws will strip out in that plastic support there. And there you go. That's our stage 1 of our frame build. That's as far as we're going to go on the frame for right now. But we've got it all set. We've got the arms locked, secured in place. There's the bottom. The front is where this big hole is right here. That's where your FPV camera actually sits. It's like half in the bottom and half sticking out the top, which is a little different. I think the reason they did that is because it's got such a low profile once you get the top one. But now we're set up. We can go ahead and mount the power distribution board on there. The flight controller will mount our motors, ESCs, and wire everything up. That's our next step. Preparing your PDB and your ESCs really just consists of preparing all your solder pads and getting them ready for your build. Really pretty simple. I always try to start with how I'm going to mount my XT60. On this one I'm just going to mount it facing up like normal. So let's start there. Just find something that is about the same height as an XT60. Mount it upside down like this. Try to make it just like that, just like a bubble on there. You don't have to just put gobs and gobs on it to get it down in the sides and everything. As long as you got a bubble on it like that, it's definitely connected in the middle, and it's bigger than the outside. Also, it's connected on the outside. It's not going to pull through, you know, so that will hold just fine. And if you ever do need to take it off, it's a lot easier to take off if you just do it like that. And there we go. Now it's done correctly. It's not coming off. There we go. Next, we will solder the pads that we're going to be using. Preparing the PDB is basically just getting the pads, you know, ready to accept solder. The pads that we're going to use, obviously we're going to use these and these on the corners for the ESCs. We're going to use the VCC in the ground, and then we're going to use the 12 and the 5 in both grounds there. So that's the only ones that we're going to prepare for right now. There you go. Your PDB is prepped and ready to install. Let's go ahead and move on to the ESCs next. Okay, your ESC preparation mainly consists of, we're going to prepare the solder points that we're going to be connecting to. For this one, we're just going to do the 3 motor points, positive, negative, and the signal wire. If you wanted to get more into it and get more out of these later on, you can do some different things by connecting some more signal points here, but for right now we're just going to do the standard preparation. You want to make sure that you got this little white piece sticking up here facing up, because you see you can prepare the bottoms and mount to the bottoms as well, but because we're going to be mounting these on our arms, we need them to sit as flat as possible, and that would definitely make them all set sideways. So we're going to do this side up. as always, on these, on any ESCs, even the more expensive ones, the pads, if you heat those solder pads up too many times, like say you're changing them from build to build, they do have a tendency to fall off. So very important to have a temperature adjustable soldering station, so you can set the temperature at about 310 to 320 degrees Celsius. That's on these ESCs. If you're ever working with any ESCs or FCs that have actually gold plated soldering points or soldering pads, then you really want to be at about 275 degrees Celsius. And there we go. We've got our 3 soldering points for our 3 motor connections. We've got our positive and negative feeding from the FC, and we've got our signal wire ready. That's it. All 4 ESCs and power distribution board are soldered and prepared for install. Motor installs. Okay, on this install, the only tool we're going to be using is 2mm hex head bit. And the main thing to remember when installing your motors is if you have 2 counterclockwise and 2 clockwise, make sure you get them going in the right direction. On our setup here, this is the front, so this is 1, 2, 3, and 4 motors. Number 1 and number 4 are going to rotate like this, clockwise, okay, and number 2 and 3 go counterclockwise, as you can see by the arrows right here on top. So that's the positions they need to be in. So this needs to be 1 and 4 here. This is 2 and 3. To help you remember, and to help me remember, you can see here I got the numbers on the bottom here to keep up with it. We're going to be installing these lights that came with the kit on the bottoms, and so I'm having to use some longer screws. The screws that I'm using are the screws that come in the pack with these. So they are kind of long, but I checked them out already, and they will clear, so you're good there. I always pull my motors as far to the outside as possible, and Just try to line these up where they're not going to be, where the screws aren't going to be messing anything up on the electronics. Just snug them up. Don't get them real tight for right now, because we don't want to break anything on this light board. Should be tight enough. Okay, so motor 1 is installed. Motors and lights are installed. Installing the PDB, only thing that we're going to be using is 4 of these standoffs here, and basically the only decision you need to make is if you want to mount your PDB with your power cord coming out on this side, or with it coming out on this side. Me personally, I mount it like this because I always have my USB port for my FC coming out on this side, and a lot of times it's right in the middle, and so you got that as a problem. You won't be able to plug in because that's sticking up. So I'm going to mount mine just like that. Then you just screw these standoffs on here to hold it into place. And that's it. Power distribution board is installed. The next thing we're going to do is run our wiring for our lights on the bottom here. And the way I'm going to do this here is I'm going to run from here all the way back and up through these holes right here. And on this side, back and through here. Now, to keep this from being a big mess, we're going to go ahead and solder them into place. Now, at this point, you have to run these all to a 5 volt. So, instead of running all 4 of these, which have a positive and negative piece, so a total of 8 wires, instead of running 8 wires to the 5 volt, I will combine all these down to 1 positive and negative, and run that one to the positive and negative of the ground. So what I want to do is, to do that, we will cut them all the same length. Make sure we got these where we want them down here. Okay. There we go. Now, before we get into all this, we're ready to do one more thing here with our arms. We've got all of these wires running. That's where these come into play. We're going to shrink wrap these to help hold that wire into place, but at the same time we want to do it where our ESC is going to be connecting, where the ESC is going to be starting, and then where it's going to be stopping. So therefore we have to be very careful when I'm shrinking this one not to shrink that one. I'm going to have to probably do this off camera and then just show you what the finished results are. And this is the desired end result. Basically got all my wiring from my lighting system run underneath these shrink tubing, these shrink wraps here, and going up through here. If you look on the other side here, what I did was I combined all my positives and all my negatives down to one cord, so that I'm just running one cord to the board. We'll go ahead and attach those now. Run it up through there and down to the 5-volt. Just right there. That's in there. Now we've got the positive connected to the 5-volt. The negative just basically has to connect to any negative. So we don't have to run it all the way over there. This is an extra here because we're using the corner connections for our ESC. So I'll just attach this negative right here. And our lights are all connected. Now we're ready to attach our ESCs. To do this, I'm going to be using my solder gun, these needle nose pliers just as a weight, and my forceps. These ESCs can be attached in any position because we're going to change all that once we get into our BL heli. I always attach the middle line first, just because that kind of holds it in place, doesn't throw it from side to side. ready to go. There's our ESCs all attached. Next we will measure for our signal wires. We'll measure for our positive and negatives and go ahead and get those cut, soldered on, get shrink wrap put around our ESCs and connected to the power distribution board, and then we'll be ready to start on our flight controller. Okay, we're going to install our wiring now. I've already got everything pre-cut and ready to go on to make it a little faster here. Alright. Now we're going to go ahead and shrink wrap it before we can mount it onto the board. I have to take this off camera just for a second. Get it all lined up right. This shrink tubing I'm using is really thin, so and all I do is I shrink it with a lighter, so you gotta be very careful. There you go. It's all shrink wrapped. Got our wiring ready to attach our signal wire. I'm gonna go ahead and do these other three. There it is. I think we're ready to go ahead and attach it to our board. There we go, we are ready. I'm going to go ahead and finish these other three up. Okay, we've got all four ESCs attached to the positive and negatives. We've got the signal wires ready to be connected to the flight controller. I'm going to go ahead and put a couple more positive and negative connections on here. The VCC for my battery sensors. and my 5-volt to power my flight controller. Okay, a couple more things that we need to add here before we install our flight controller is this is our cord for our camera. You have positive, negative, and your signal, and this is your cord for your video transmitter, which is this. You also, on this one, you have positive, negative. This is audio and OSD. We're not going to be using those. And then the other yellow is signal. So you just connect the signal from the camera to the signal to the VTX. But both of these take 12 volts, so we have to run both of them to the 12 volt. These two wires here are a 5 volt coming off of the VTX. I left them on there for now because I'm thinking about installing some lights on the back here that take 5 volt, and I'm going to run them to them. So we're going to go ahead and install these here real quick. And there we go, just that easy. Camera should fit in there fine. The VTX. Should fit on the top right there just fine. A little extra signal wire than we needed, but that'll be alright. No big deal. Okay. Now, okay, we are ready to install our flight controller. The first thing we're going to do is connect the power from the PDB to the flight controller that's going to be powering it. Because this flight controller has a built-in converter on it, we connect straight from the ground in the VCC, which is given the full battery voltage. We'll start with the positive, and it's going to connect to the third hole down that says VBAT, and then the ground is going to connect right there on the outside. VBAT is in the middle. Don't get it confused with current and ground. It connects to VBAT and ground, third one down from the LED strip. So that's going to be the third hole down, which would be right there. Next, I'm going to, just out of the easiest way to do it here, I'm going to go ahead and connect my receiver. I'm using an X8R, or I'm not sure which one it is exactly, but I'm going to go ahead and connect our receiver, which connects right here where it says S bus and PPM. Your signal is going to go on the inside right here, power in the middle, and then ground on the outside. Next, I'm going to connect my telemetry for my Tyrannus. Telemetry is going to connect into the TX1 slot, which is right here. Earlier, when I was connecting the VTX wires and the camera wires, I had the signal wire wired together. You'll notice I've disconnected those because I'm actually going to run it through our flight controller so that we can use our OSD. You can still power each the camera and the VTX off directly from the power distribution board, but the signal wires need to go in here into the board. Let me look here. Alrighty, the outside hole at the very top right here is your video in, so that would be your camera signal. Okay, that's really the majority of what we've got to connect. The only thing left is our ESCs. And they're going to connect where we connected our receiver right here. The signal wires for our ESCs, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, are going to connect 1, 2, 3, 4 right there. I can see I've got a problem here. This ESC wire is not long enough. Let me see if this one's going to be long enough. That one will. So go ahead and start with number 2, and then we'll go on to number 3 and 4, and then we'll come back and get number 1. Yep. Afraid of that. Number 3 don't reach either. I have to extend number 3 as well. I have to make both of these wires just a little bit longer. And then we'll be able to hook them up. Okay, now you can see here I went ahead and extended the signal wires on these two ESCs so that I could get them connected in here and still mount it like I'm supposed to. I ended up having to extend this one just a little bit too. Instead of taking it all apart, I just wrapped it through and under and into there. I went ahead and put a little zip tie on my receiver to hold it to the base plate. I run my antennas through these holes here and strapped them to the bottom of each arm on the rear. Now we're going to go ahead, and I went ahead and installed the post as well. Now we're going to go ahead and install our VTX. There we go. That should clear. That's pretty sturdy. VTX ain't going anywhere. Now, next thing we want to do is get our camera ready to install. You'll notice on your camera mounts, one end has got a little hole in it. That hole goes through the bottom and sits in there just like that. Once you get that done, the next thing is to take this long post that you've got here and connect it through the bottom. Now, the one thing I didn't like about this kit is it doesn't come with screws to mount this camera in there. Get it in there now. There we go. Now at this point we are basically done, and you would think go ahead and screw the top on it, but before we do that, if you got a multimeter and you really need one, if you don't have one you need to get one. We'll set it here on this setting to check and see if we have any shorts. We're all good. If there was any shorts on the board, it would sound like this when we touch it. When we touch the positive and negative, see, that's positive to positive, it would sound like that. So we should be good. Alright, let's go ahead and put the top on. See how it looks. That's a pretty clean looking quadcopter. Moment of truth. Let's see if it catches on fire. Everything appears to be working. No smoke. That's good. All right. Build complete. All we have to do now is a little bit of programming. Battery mount like that. GoPro mount right here. And boom, powered up. Take off.